Did you know that almost any one of you guys could become a millionaire if you really want it bad enough? Well, in today's video, I'm excited to talk about this because I'm going to break down the exact steps you need to take in order to become a millionaire and make that dream a reality. What's up, guys? It's James Allen, the out-of-state investor, and in today's world, there are so many people who have a desire to become a millionaire, who have a desire to become wealthier, but at the same time, most of those people aren't willing to put in the effort, the work necessary to actually reach that milestone. And that is what separates so many people from those who build massive wealth versus those who can't do it. Now, as far as my life goes, I got married young, and unfortunately, I practiced bad financial habits. I lived paycheck to paycheck for many years of my life until I got to the point where I was in $25,000 of consumer debt. It was a really bad place to be in. You see, we were at a point where we weren't even able to make our next rent payment, so we knew we had a serious problem and that change was seriously needed. So what we did is we realized that if we could live below our means, then that would give us the opportunity to invest our money, to grow our wealth significantly, and completely change our financial picture. And when we realized that, it all of a sudden became like this goal we were shooting for. We had a plan of action, we knew exactly what we wanted to do, and it was a game changer. Living below your means is just when your monthly income is greater than your monthly expenses. Now, what it doesn't mean is that you're going to look like you're living in poverty the rest of your life. Now, it may look like that a little bit early on as you're getting started, as you're growing your wealth, but once you grow your wealth to a certain point, you're going to start seeing that you're going to start to be able to build cash flow or build your assets to a point where you can actually afford nicer things and yet still live below your means. And this is the way my wife and I like to do it, is we like to live below our means, there's no doubt about that, but at the same time, we like to enjoy life a little bit. As we grow our income, as we grow our assets, we start to increase a little bit in our lifestyle, but not at the cost of scaling our investments. Now, with that said, our first year when we decided to dial things back, we took some extreme measures because we were in a very poor financial position. So when we were in 25 grand of debt, we decided to move in with my wife's parents. We decided to dial back our food costs from about $1,100 a month to about $125 a month, which was a drastic change. We also had a new Honda CR-V at the time. We ended up selling that, ended up buying a old PT Cruiser from like 2003. It was purple, really ugly car. I'm so glad we're not at that stage anymore, but it was definitely worth it because what it did is it really set us up to net so much money, even with our average incomes, that we were able to completely eliminate our debt and get enough money to save up for our first investment property. So as you can see, the best way to live below your means is to budget. Now, budget doesn't mean, like I said, you have to just live like you're broke and all that kind of stuff. What budgeting is just understanding where every dollar is coming in and where every dollar is going out. It's very important to understand what your dollars are doing. So if you were to look at the average American household budget, you'd find that they spend about 35% of their income on housing, about 16% on transportation, about 8% on healthcare costs, and 12.5% on food. That means that 71.5% of your income is tied to just those four expenses, and you only have 28.5% left over. So let's say your household income was $6,000. That means you'd only have $1,710 left over to cover things like childcare, clothes, vacations, taxes, utilities, phone bill, internet, all those kind of extra costs that you still have to do. And that's not even counting things like your savings or investments that you really want to start putting money into at this point. And so you can kind of see a picture why so many Americans, why about 2/3 of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So what I found is the most important thing when starting a budget is you have to pay yourself first. You just have to do that because that is money that's going to go towards your savings or investments. And when you prioritize that, you work the rest of your budget around that. So what you want to do is you really want to create a detailed budget labeling exactly what you want to spend in each category rather than leaving it to chance and go, well, maybe I just spent $1,500 this month on food. I guess that is what it is. No, maybe if you set a goal that I don't want to spend more than $1,000 this month, now you have that $500 extra dollars that you can pay yourself on the first of the month. And once you pay yourself, that money goes out to another separate separate account, out of sight, out of mind, and now you're forced to save that money and not spend it on food anymore. So outside of paying yourself first, you really want to lower those big 4 expenses I talked about: the housing, transportation, healthcare, and food. Now healthcare, maybe we'll leave that alone because you do want to be safe and you want to take care of your body. That's very important as well. But at least food, transportation, and housing, you really want to do everything in your power to lower those costs. And so these are the parameters that I set for myself as a hard line. I will not go past this no matter what. So for housing, I definitely don't want to spend any more than 25% of my income on all housing related expenses. So that's not only housing, but also including things like, if I have a pool, so pool maintenance, or any kind of utilities, or things along the line that come under a household expense. Maybe I'm cleaning my house once a week or once a month. That would also be a household expense. Maybe lawn maintenance would also be included in that. So all household expenses should be less than 25%. With transportation, I go anywhere from 5 to 10% as a hard line. And remember, these are maximums. You can go less than this, but 5 to 10% is the range I like to go. If you're really trying to go hardcore for financial freedom, try to go to the 5%. That may mean trying to buy a car in cash, but whatever you have to do to get there, sometimes it's worth making that sacrifice. But 10% is the absolute max I set for myself. If I want to get a nicer car, that's fine, as long as it fits under that 10% of my income. Now for food, I have it set at 10% of your income, and I only have it at that because some people have big families. I have 3 children. I actually have a 4th one on the way right now. So it can be very hard to keep food costs very low. So for those big families, no more than 10%. But if you're single, if you're married without kids, you can bring that down possibly even to 5%. But even at 10% of your income, you've managed in total with all these different expenses to bring it from 28.5% of your income left over to now 52% of your income left over. So it makes a tremendous difference if you can lower your big 4 expenses. Now that's great and that's going to get you started, but that is not going to get you to becoming a millionaire. The key to becoming a millionaire is multiplying your money. You want to use that compound interest, and that's only going to be achieved when you learn how to invest your money properly. Now when it comes to investing, some people are going to try and time the market, but the reality is nobody knows when a market crash is going to happen, whether it's in the stock market or whether it's in the real estate market. Nobody has a clue. So the best thing to do is focus more on time in the market versus timing the market. And when you have time in the market, that's when you're going to experience compound interest, because if you're in it for the long haul, yes, you may have a crash here or there, but over the long run, you're going to be experiencing exponential growth upward. I'll give you a quick example of compound interest. If you were just to save $200 a month for 40 years, you would save up $96,000. But if you were to invest that $200 a month at an 8% annual rate, you would actually turn that into $671,500. And even better than that, if you could get a 12% annualized rate of return, then you could actually be at $2 million after 40 years. So on one hand, you could have saved the money at $96,000, or you could have invested it and been at $2 million. You can see the difference. Now imagine if you were doing that at $2,000 a month. You could save your way to $960,000, or you could be at over $20 million if you invest it right. So as you can see, compound interest is pretty amazing, but you might be wondering, well, how am I going to get 8% returns, 12% returns, maybe even better than that? Well, it comes down to stocks or real estate. Okay, there are other things like crypto. You can invest in very speculative investments like that. But the key is, if you want to have something that has over 100+ years of proven long-term gains, then real estate and stocks is ultimately where it's at. Now with stocks, it's more of a passive investment. It doesn't really require anything from you other than simply purchasing it and buying that stock. Now picking the right single stocks can be very overwhelming, especially if you have very little experience. So if you don't know what you're doing, the safest thing to do is just simply pick an index fund, something like the S&P 500, where there's proven long-term gains, and that way you kind of mitigate your risk because you're kind of being exposed to 500 companies at once instead of having all your eggs in one basket on, say, Tesla. So like I said, that's a great way to go if you want a passive investment experience. But if you're willing to put in a little bit of work and educate yourself, I guarantee you that real estate is going to outperform stocks day in, day out. Real estate is amazing because you can make money in so many different ways. And in fact, 90% of the world's millionaires were actually made in real estate. So with real estate investing, there are 6 different ways you make money. And that's what makes it so amazing. Okay, number 1 is cash flow. The mailbox money you get every single month after all your expenses are covered, that's your cash flow. And that's one way you make money. Number 2 is principal pay down. So the money you're maybe not getting after all expenses, but maybe is going towards paying down that mortgage. That's also money you're making because you're building up equity through that process. Number 3 is appreciation. And appreciation is pretty straightforward because, as you know, house prices over time go up. And that's the money you're going to make from that, the equity you build up over time from the appreciation of the house. Number 4 is one of my favorites, and that's leverage. And I love leverage because with real estate, you have the ability to get into a house with as little as 3% down out of pocket, possibly even 0% if you were in the military or something like that. But even then, if you're not, 3% down out of pocket, I mean, there's not really another investment that allows you to put down $3,000 to control $100,000 worth of investment. And then when that $100,000 goes up 10%, you've made $10,000 on a $3,000 investment. That's hundreds of percent of return. Number 5 is tax benefits. The IRS code was almost tailor-made for the real estate investor to where you can literally make so many write-offs to where the cash flow you make can end up becoming a net number unto you. And finally, number 6, you have value add. Value add is basically the value you're adding, finding an old, outdated property, you completely renovate it inside and out to add extra equity to the property. Maybe you buy a property for $100,000, maybe you put in $50,000 of rehab and now it's worth $200,000. Well, you just made $50,000 extra dollars because you fixed that property up. So you could see that when you put all these 6 things together, that's how real estate is so amazing and how you can make so much money doing it. And it makes it so easy to scale your investments compared to other forms of investing because you have the ability to refinance a property and recycle it into more real estate, or you could even do things like sell a property, do a 1031 exchange, avoiding taxes for all the gains you made at the time, and then throwing all that money into another investment. So you can start to scale things super fast, a lot faster than you can in, say, the stock market. So this is why I choose to invest in real estate. I've been doing it for the past 4.5 years. It's been a tremendous wealth builder for my wife and I continue to do it to this day because I know for a fact it's the fastest way to grow your wealth. So if you can learn to live below your means, pay yourself first, and take all that excess cash and throw it into things like real estate, it's only a matter of time before you become a millionaire and start building massive wealth for yourself and your family. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is the blueprint to becoming a millionaire in today's world. There's so much information out there, so take advantage of it. But if you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and smash that like button, and also subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell if you haven't already done so you can stay tuned for more content like this. Finally, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Out of State Investor. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.